Hey you, and welcome. In this video, we will learn about objects in JavaScript. Objects in JavaScript are very crucial data types. They allow us to bring the real-world objects in virtual world and start programming with them. For example, a real-world object like laptop can be identified using some properties that may be common between all the laptops. For example, a laptop might have CPU, RAM, disk space, and many other properties. You can use those in code to identify a laptop and then run some logic to make it functional. Similarly, a bank account in real world can be identified as an object in JavaScript as well. And it can have properties like balance, username, password, and many more. All right, so how do we write objects in JavaScript? Let's dive right into it. I have my VS Code open, and I'm going to do a Command-Shift-P or double-shift in my case, I guess I did that. No, Command-Shift-P is fine. I will search for Quokka. We have installed that from the previous videos, and I'll start with a new JavaScript file. Perfect. I don't need the terminal, so I'm going to close that out, and I'll start writing my first object. In order to write the object, I'll start with the keyword const. This is coming from JavaScript. This is a constant variable. We're going to talk about const, let, var in the later videos, but for now, we're going to stick with const. Then I'm going to provide a name for my object. In this case, it will be obj equals to, and then curly braces, like so. So that's how you create an object in JavaScript. I didn't need the semicolon at the end, but I just added that, force of habit. Now, obj is just a name. If it was a multiple word name, for example, bank account, that won't work because JavaScript doesn't like spaces between the words or between the variable names. Variable names follow a convention in JavaScript, and usually that convention would be that they have to be camel case. Camel case means the first letter of the word will start with the lowercase. However, every other word that connects with the same word will start with the uppercase. So in this case, bank is one word, account is the second word, and the second word first letter starts with capital. So that's a bank account. And that's how you would work with variable names. And in this case, obj could be anything. I could name it Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Goofy, whatever you'd like. I just work with the name obj. All right. So with that done, in the curly braces, I can start by splitting the line, so curly braces and then the statement, and my IDE is helping me out here on line number 2. There's already indentation of 2 spaces because the IDE knows when you put curly braces in JavaScript, you're starting an object, and every other line under those curly braces would be a property. All right, so what is a property? A property is a key value pair. A key can be any name, just like the variable names we talked about just now. I could name a key Mickey and separate it with a colon. And the value can be an empty string or write empty inside it. That's all okay. And a comma separated. So that's how you identify a property or like a... So that's how you write a property in JavaScript objects. I will rename it. Instead of Mickey, it will be ID, and instead of a string value, I'll put a number. There's different type of data types that we can work with. There's a number, there's a string, there can be Boolean, true or false. It can also be assigned to a function, which we will talk about later in this video, but we will for now stick with just a number. So in this case, my object has a number. Now let's rename my object and call it bottle object. That's what we have been working with in the previous video as well. And let's say I want to identify a bottle as an object in my JavaScript code. So first of all, ID, it will have an ID. This is my first bottle, so ID number 1. Next thing would be, what is the color of my bottle? And in this case, I'll say it's black color. Then size, what is the size of my bottle? I have a few options to work with. Either I work with a number, say 8, and then put a comment to say this will be in ounces, or I can work with string value and provide 8 ounces. The difference would be in some cases you may prefer number over string, only because you can do some arithmetic operators, do some calculations based on the number, whereas with the string you may have to do a little extra work to get the number out of the string and then do those arithmetic operators. All right, so that's the object. I'll keep that as is. I'll change the number back to 8, like so. And let's do console log And here I want to access my object. I have instantiated an object, I've created it, but I now want to read property out of it and see what it holds. And in order to do so, I can just say bottle. So that's my object name. And inside bottle, I will call color. So dot color. When you put a dot after the variable name, that means you're accessing a property inside it. If this is not an object, JavaScript will complain and will error out. But in this case, this is an object. So dot, whatever is the property name, you can write down and it will output you the value for that key. In this case, black. If I wanted to do as say size, it will return number 8 or ID number 1. So that's how you access properties in an object. But that's not the only way. In some cases, you may work with a square bracket, and then in the square bracket, you would just provide a string value, and string value can hold the property key. And that's just the same thing that we have been doing. So let me just copy that over so we can see it better. Bottle color. Notice the output is exactly the same. So it's just two different ways of bringing the property value to your code. Now, why would you opt into the square bracket when color up here, the period, looks so much better? And the reason for that, it could be two. Either you're working with a dynamic key name. So in this case, key name is one of the parameters in your function or something, and you can say, I will just pass the key name, and that's the key you're going to access for that object, and return me the value. So that's one of the reasons why. Another reason can be is that you're not following the conventional way of writing the property property name. So let's say I wanted to write bottle width equals to 1. That's not going to work. The reason for that is because there's space. I could put dash, but dash is not going to work either because inside object dash is not allowed either. So I can just wrap it with a string quote, and that way it would allow me. And now I can access that using string quote here as well. So when you're following unconventional way of writing property name, that may come in handy. All right, I'll take that away. I don't need it. Perfect. Next, let's write an object method. An object method in this case will be a change size method. So that's the key of my property, change size. And the value would be a function instead of the string and numbers that we have been working with so far. And a function, we haven't really written any functions in JavaScript, so I'll do a quick crash course on this. And in the later videos, we're going to go deep dive into functions as well. So function starts with a function keyword. That's one of the ways to start a function notation. And then parentheses, curlies right after each other. In the parentheses, you can accept some parameters that user may pass. So a function may accept size or new size. And in the curlies, we can do the business logic to say what should happen when the function is called. And when the function is called, we'll say this keyword will give us access to the bottle object because it's inside, the function is inside that object. So this means the bottle object dot color. So I'm targeting the color property, and I'm going to reassign it equals to new size, and that with a semicolon. And with that done, I can now call the change size function and see how that changes my size. So first, let's just output the size. It's 8 over here, and then output it again. So that's 8 twice. And right in the middle of it, I'm going to call my change size function, and we call the function by putting parentheses at the end of the function name. That's how you call it. If I just did this change size, nothing will happen because we're not calling the function, we are just assigning it or referencing it. That's about it. But if you put parentheses, now you're calling a function, and inside the parentheses, I need to provide the new size, and I'll assign that to 12. Perfect. And with that done, I assigned it to the color. Sorry, my fault. Size. There we go. So now we can see the size is changing. It's changed to 12 underneath. If I also copy paste this again and change the size back to 8, you can see how it changes. So that's how object methods have access to the object itself. And one more thing before we go, objects can have more objects inside itself. So I can say there is a new object, would be dimensions of my bottle. And I start with another curly braces. So dimensions key equals to curly braces. That means it's another object. and I will assign that a width key 12 and then height key of 12. That should give me a nested object inside my object. So how do you access that value? Well, similarly how we did before, we're just going to have to keep adding dots for every nested object that we work with. So in this case, dot dimensions dot width will get me the width that I'm looking for. And same thing for height. It would work just fine. All right, perfect. I'll see you all in the next video.